President Trump denying a military jet for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was reportedly set to head out of the country for a meeting with foreign allies. This after Speaker Pelosi called to postpone the State of the Union address. All of this regarding the shutdown. We are working on bringing up a picture for you of a Air Force bus that is idling outside of the Rayburn office building, House office building. It has Capitol Hill police escort that was apparently headed to the airport to leave on this trip, which I can't believe that they were going on a trip in the middle of the shutdown anyway. So the president might have saved them some embarrassment. But now they're also embarrassed because they're probably going to have to get off that bus, and they're not going on their trip, at least not by a military aircraft. Let's bring in Brett Baer, anchor of Special Report. It's good to have you here. A little drama. I knew something was going to happen today. I just had a feeling. Okay, so your thoughts on this. The president didn't respond to Nancy Pelosi at all, not by tweet, not by anything. And then today, just a half hour before this trip, drops this letter to them.
Well, it's quite a move, isn't it? And it is quite a response. It will get a lot of attention. And for those lawmakers sitting on that bus that's idling on Capitol Hill, just a block away from where I'm sitting, they have no clue what is exactly going on. But that plane is not taking off because, while the money has been appropriated for the Defense Department and it could be paid for, obviously, this is the commander-in-chief and the 89th Flight Wing responds to the commander-in-chief. So the military is not flying if the commander-in-chief says, don't go.
Don't go. Let me ask you this. What were the members of Congress thinking going on a CODEL, the congressional delegation trip? That's the code word for it, CODEL. Why were they going to go overseas to Belgium, Egypt? I understand why you're going to Afghanistan. But in the middle of a shutdown, that seems foolhardy to me.
It does seem like bad timing. You know how these things go, though. They get set up months in advance. They line up all of the dignitaries that they're going to meet with on the ground, and it's just a matter of scheduling. This one happened to be scheduled in the middle of the longest shutdown that probably a lot of people thought would be wrapped up by now. It hasn't been. On the defense of congressional delegations, they do learn a lot from being overseas.
Yes.
And you know all that, and especially when it comes to Afghanistan, to be able to have firsthand knowledge from the military people on the ground. But you're right, it doesn't give the right impression during a shutdown.
Especially the Speaker of the House, who she's newly the Speaker. She's in this position of power. She is in the position to negotiate with the president if they were willing to do so. So as we wait to see if we can get this picture up of this bus that's idling out there, we'll have to see if it skirts away sort of quietly. What else are you hearing about the possibility of any discussion? The president today in his speech at the Defense Department said there are a lot of Democrats who want Nancy Pelosi to allow them to negotiate, but she's in their way. Is that something you're hearing?
Yeah, I have heard that from several people, especially on the Senate side, that there are a number of conversations ongoing. I had the House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer on Special Report last night. He suggested that a compromise is possible. He also, by the way, suggested that walls work in some places on the border. And it does seem like there is a bit of a turning point as far as holding the line on that walls are immoral line.
Take a look at this picture, Brett. We finally have that here. That's the Air Force bus that was ready to go with U.S. Capitol Police escort. I assume they were probably going out to Joint Base Andrews, I would imagine. And then now I don't even know if they were loaded yet, but they're not going to be getting on that bus, or they're not going to be going on this particular CODEL unless they fly commercial.
Chad Pergram just did a 320, which is kind of our alert system here in D.C., and said that there were lawmakers on that bus, and that he's got sound from Elliot Engel, who was supposed to be on this trip, that we should be able to play here pretty soon. Here's the thing. The Speaker did the original layout of the State of the Union shouldn't go forward because of security. We didn't hear from the president, but now we're hearing from the president, and he's making his feelings clear through this move.
And she does have the right to invite her, but she didn't really disinvite. It was one of those things where I really think it would be better, Mr. President, if you were to change the date. Now, she's not saying there would not be a State of the Union at all. She's saying let's reschedule it for a date after we get the government workers back to work. We're also finding out from John Roberts at the White House that the trip was a DOD, Department of Defense trip, not a State Department trip. Just another little nugget there to add to this. Your thoughts, Brett, then about any pressure that the White House or the Democrats or Republicans on Capitol Hill are feeling about workers who are really starting to feel the pinch. We've heard reports about food banks being set up for FBI employees and Coast Guard employees. We know that there are a number of Americans who live paycheck to paycheck, and this is really starting to bite.
It is. You know, there's a restaurant right down the street from us, Charlie Palmer's. A lot of us go for lunch sometimes, and they're offering furloughed federal employees free chicken sandwiches. Other businesses around D.C. are doing the same. And you are seeing some of that. And I do think there will be a moment here, a fulcrum point, where somebody has to get to the table. There has to be some negotiation back and forth, and that's what I tried to press Majority Leader Hoyer about last night. He suggested that it was coming, but so far we haven't seen it, and I think you're going to see this pressure. The next pay period is Tuesday at midnight, and so they're hoping to get something through before then.
And it's interesting to point on that Nancy Pelosi and the rest of this CODEL would not have been in the country when this next pay period is missed, if they were going to go on this trip that the president has now canceled just a half hour before they were supposed to leave. We appreciate you jumping into the seat there, Brett Baer. Thank you, and we'll check in with you later. And also, of course, we will watch Special Report.
Citing security concerns during the shutdown, Nancy Pelosi has asked Donald Trump to give his State of the Union in writing. Trump's response? Canceling her trip to Brussels right before takeoff. It's hilarious. In the letter, he said he was sorry to inform her that he's canceling the trip. No, he wasn't sorry, not at all. He basically stole her lunch money, and then he ate her lunch. Still, Trump should accept her offer and send the address in writing, a sheet with just 2 words, bye-bye. Then hold a giant event in the middle of America. After all, the people elected Trump, not Washington, D.C. Nancy and the Dems can take shelter under their desks and watch it all on iPads. And Trump can cite his achievements, tell some jokes, just so the press has a reason to burn their hair. Broadcast it on YouTube. The media will cover it in highly flammable fact checks. It'll be the first People's State of the Union. If the media doesn't show it, then we know it's personal and political. For this is historical and hysterical. Because what do the Dems do then? Do they not respond when he does it anyway, at a better place with better-looking people, with music, prizes, farm animals, and face painting, and almost no carbon footprint? Think about that. Do they hold a response with the same cardboard cutouts from before? Man, Nancy just offered Trump an amazing opportunity. It gets him out of a really dull speech, and it gets the 5 out of going to D.C., a place with overpriced booze, incompetent politicians, and substandard food, which really is the whole point of this monologue. All right, originally we were going to talk about the State of the Union, but we got to talk about this letter, which is fantastic. Dear Madam Speaker, due to the shutdown, I'm sorry to inform you that your trip to Brussels, Egypt, and Afghanistan has been postponed. We will reschedule this 7-day excursion when the shutdown is over. Oh, geez. This, obviously, if you would like to make your journey by flying commercial, that would certainly be your prerogative. Dana, okay, some might say this is childish, or I think Juan thinks this is childish. I think it's childishly awesome.
You just stole my notes. You stole my notes.
We can read your mind. So this story broke during the 2 o'clock hour, and I had John Roberts on, Peter Ducey, and we find out that not only is he canceling the trip, but the trip is supposed to leave in 30 minutes.
Yes.
So they're on the bus, on the Air Force bus, with the Capitol Police ready to go.
She already took her Ambien.
Oh, no. And never do that. Never take your Ambien until you're on the runway about to take off.
You fall asleep if it gets delayed.
Right, and then you could get in trouble and all the things. So look, I knew something was going to happen today because it was like just the timing. I also feel like because the president was silent yesterday in response to her suggestion that he reschedule the State of the Union because of security, but now it's actually just because of the shutdown and her leverage, that they waited until that 30 minutes before that bus was supposed to leave in order to do it. And it is kind of like a reality TV show, right? Like, so I think, oh, well, tit for tat. I understand the thing about their security concerns. She was going to Afghanistan. But here's the thing. What congressional delegation thinks it's a good idea to leave town when the shutdown is entering its 5th week? I think he actually just saved them some major embarrassment.
I think they're both doing each other a favor. But Juan, I want to get to you because I know that you thought it was idiotic or childish. But see, what makes us laugh should also bring you pleasure.
It's not funny? A little bit?
You mean,
You should be happy that I'm happy.
Well, I'm glad. Look, I'm entertained. I love this show. I think it's great. Let's make fun of everybody. But at some point, you got to say, what was it? Gary Cohn, the economic advisor to Trump, said today he doesn't understand where this is going. It's bad for the economy. We see the economy being damaged. There's real consequence. So, yeah, I love a laugh, too. I got no problems. But I will say this, to Dana's point, I think it was President Trump who actually went overseas to a war zone during the shutdown.
Yeah, that is the talking point.
Was that when Pelosi was in Hawaii? That was when Pelosi was in Hawaii. So they couldn't have actually had a meeting.
No. In other words, Trump is being totally hypocritical and delighting in it by saying, I'd like you to be here so you can negotiate. Well, wait a second. Didn't he leave town?
Pelosi wasn't in town, Juan.
Doesn't matter because he was gone.
Hawaii.
He was gone, Jesse.
But
he was gone. So, to me, what you see today is, Trump's now saying, let's bring back some diplomats. Okay. Yesterday was, let's bring back some IRS agents. He is so on the defensive, so losing this fight right now that he is trying to lessen the impact of the shutdown on the American people. But he delights in boorish behavior, skewering Nancy Pelosi and making himself look, I use Greg's word, childish.
Jesse, I want to just shift a little bit to the offer that Pelosi is giving, because I believe he should accept the offer, do it in writing, and hold this rally. But you disagree with me.
Yeah, I'm pro State of the Union. I want to see the president blast the Democrats and have Nancy sit next to Pence and squirm without being able to respond. And then maybe if she wants to, she can respond with crying Chuck at one podium afterwards and get hammered. Because I like the pageantry of it, and usually the presidents get a little bit of a
You
bounce.
want to go to D.C. Just admit it.
The food is delicious in D.C.
You want to stay at the Trump Hotel?
You can buy my drinks.
Yeah.
I would never stay there, right? The company's paying for it. It would be a conflict of interest. And I'm always on the up and up with these things. Also, remember the last time the Democrats just sat on their hands when they said the African-American, Hispanic American unemployment was at record lows? So there's political wins to be had for the president at the State of the Union, and she doesn't want the president to have the opportunity to go make the case for the American people. But what he did today was pure savage. Nancy Pelosi is petty, but no one is more petty than Donald Trump. She went low, and he went lower.
Yes.
And my favorite line is, you can fly commercial like JetBlue flies to Afghanistan. Please. I mean, she's been in Hawaii, Juan. Her crew is in Puerto Rico. She hasn't been at the White House for a week, and then she's going to Brussels and Afghanistan for another week. She doesn't want to end the shutdown. She likes it. She thinks she's scoring points.
Let me ask you something. I know you're like Trump, but was that an endorsement of Trump to say he's going lower than low?
It's gamesmanship. And Juan, you can't say that what Pelosi did the other day with the State of the Union was a great power play, and this is childish.
I say it was a great power play.
Everybody on the left,
let me get the docket.
Here's what I said. You know what? The government's broken. The government's not functioning. And to stand up there and pretend like everything is normal is bananas.
It reconfirms exactly what Jesse is saying. Trump and Pelosi are made for each other, right? So one goes one way, one goes the other way, whatever. The bottom line is, as a parent, it reminds me of a lot of the Sapphire household, or just a bad telenovela, the way that this is playing out. And unfortunately, we can laugh at it. It's funny, but it's not funny, because these are actually supposed to be the adults of our country. And so whether he goes to the State of the Union, it's going to be the same thing. It's a political episode. We're going to see the Democrats maybe squirm a little bit. It's going to be a Democrat bashing session. Nothing's actually going to come out of it. And, Nancy Pelosi's spokesperson, they came out and said that the purpose of her trip was to express appreciation thanks to our men and women of service. You know how she can do that? By staying here and getting the government back and start paying the Coast Guard, because they're not getting paid. And they're also men and women in uniform.
I do wonder a little bit about this, because, when I was at the White House, I would do this thing called a sister test. So I'd call my sister and say, what do you think about this? And if she said, never heard of it, I'm like, oh, thank God, we're all right. But today she said something to me. She sent me a text, and she was like, both of them, could they just get it together? Right? Yeah. Something like that. And I wonder if that's more of the... Of course, we can laugh for a moment. It is, really funny. But there are consequences for people that are...
Rand Paul made a suggestion. Do we want to play that tape? Do we have time? Or should I just summarize it? Nobody's talking to me. Go ahead.
The Shutdown Prevention Act?
Yeah, I think that's a real affront to the American people. And what I would suggest is that Senator McConnell's in charge of the Senate. Let's host it in the Senate. This would be the first time in history that the House would deny a president the forum of speaking. If she's going to do that, let's hold it in the Senate.
I do not like this idea.
No.
This is so just Boring.
I think it's even more boring.
It's
than
even
the
more
House.
boring. Don't host it.
You want to see a rally in like Billings, Montana?
No, Mar-a-Lago.
Like Greenwood.
I want to get a few days in the sun.
Hey,
What about going to El Paso?
He had a speech already. You know, he had a speech already in the Oval Office. Did it move anything? Did it change any
But
opinion?
this
like
is
it.
the
Doesn't like it.
State of the
It did.
Union address. It is a unifying thing for the country.
Oh,
We
if it
have
was-
very few traditions
Do you think
left.
it'll be unifying? I think he'll stand up
government
there and
shut
just
down.
tell
We're not
more
unified right
distortions and lies and misrepresentations.
But I'm also okay with it going back to a written thing. That's
Me
the way that
too.
was the original
Me too.
intent.
No.
By the way,
I want to go to
security.
DC.
They're having the Super Bowl. You need a lot of security for that, too, okay?